Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about gun disarm techniques. Now we're talking specifically about a situation where you don't have a gun and there is a gun pretty much being held really close to you, where you have the possibility of maybe disarming. Okay, and there's a popular channel out there called D.U.S.T. Okay, which has become all the rage lately. If you go and you look at the comments, it's hilarious. People are absolutely freaking out in there. People, I've seen other channels spring up to counter what this man is teaching. And I kind of thought that I would share with you guys my opinion, okay? So I do teach gun grappling, right? But that's usually a situation where you've got the gun and somebody's trying to take your gun, okay? So this is a situation where it's the opposite. You don't have the gun, and there's a gun pretty much being held at your face or close to your body, um, within your arm's reach, okay? So what I think is not being discussed when we're talking about trying to do a gun disarm is that it is a last resort. Okay, it is for not a situation where you're being robbed, right, where somebody's trying to take your money. It is for an execution situation where basically you're going to die. Okay, so I'll tell it to you guys like it is, man. Over the 12 years that I have been a gun instructor, I've interacted a lot with both police, military, at different levels, right? I've interacted with police that mostly write tickets. I interacted with police that do like the night beats, right, in dangerous cities or in the dangerous part of cities. I've interacted with like military that are more like your standard soldier. I've interacted with military that have done like special operations type of stuff. Okay, very different mindset. Okay, so if when you talk to when I have talked to rather to the more like the standard Marine grunt type of guy, they'll tell me that that's all bullshit. We don't do that. We don't get close enough for anybody to try and grab our gun. And if we're doing any close quarter combat where somebody grabs our gun, tries to grab it, there's usually their buddy a couple of feet behind them that will just put the gun to that guy's head and shoot him. Okay, so with most military units, right, the standard ones, there's no need to develop those type of techniques. However, when I've talked to like special forces types of guys who train for possible scenarios where they're operating separate from the rest of the unit, right, they do the gun disarm techniques, and they're usually very much along the lines, right, of get your gun, if there's the gun being pointed at you, get your body out of the way, turn the gun away from your body, and then basically angle it up to basically ratchet it, twist it out of their hands. Okay, that's the basic concept. Now, for you, those of you who have been studying my channel for a while, if you look up swordsmanship and my channel name, you'll see I've done lots of swordsmanship type of videos where I teach sword training, and I've been doing that. I was teaching sword training long before I was ever teaching gun training. I've been a competitive swordsman for almost 16 years at this point. Okay, so when I study historical swordsmanship manuals, they use the same idea, right? If you got a blade at your face, move your body out of the way, get the blade offline, and then try to get the blade out of their hands by twisting it in a direction where the hand doesn't normally move. Okay, so the ideas are nothing new. They go back centuries. The problem with the guns, well, here's the thing with the sword, right, or a dagger, you have to exert a lot more effort to make the sword work versus a gun where all you gotta do is just move the trigger. Okay, so because there's such little effort involved, okay, with pulling the trigger, it really has to be a last resort type of thing where you're going to be executed, where you basically have a 100% chance of being killed, right? There's a 100% chance that they're going to kill you, and by executing some type of a gun disarm, you basically have a 1% chance of executing it, but hey, now the chance of you dying is 99% instead of 100%. Okay, so in that context, right, where you're going to be executed, it makes sense to do a gun disarm. One of the things I have heard from vets that have done special forces type of stuff, in Iraq and Afghanistan, is if you're captured and you see a pistol, right? If you see a pistol, okay, there's going to be an execution, okay? They in that part of the world, they don't use pistols for anything other than execution. So if you see a pistol, you're going to be executed. You better do something, okay? Now that something might be to stall and buy for time, right? It doesn't necessarily mean immediately react, okay? It doesn't mean immediately react, because here's one of the things that's sort of taken out of context when we do these gun disarms, okay? When we do a gun disarm, we're drilling it over and over and over and over again, okay? So both people know what's going to happen. We're just going through the steps of how to do it, okay? We're not adding in the real life additional stuff of first of all, are you 100% sure that you're going to be executed, okay? We're not taking into account the confidence of both people, the person that's about to do the executing and the person that's about to be executed, or the commitment of either party. So these are all things that are not usually accounted for when we're doing the drilling. Okay, another thing another technique that D.U.S.T has used, and I have seen it before. I've it's basically, by the way, this is obviously a plastic gun I'm using here, right? If the gun's here, right, and if you pull back the slide, bring the gun out of battery, the gun won't fire, okay? The natural counter to this is, the person's going to pull back, which is going to put the gun back into battery. However, envision now a situation where you're rolling around on the ground, right, where you're not standing, or where you're on top of the person, and they don't have the opportunity to pull back because now you're on top of them, and now you push the slide back and it's out of battery, and they can't pull back, so now the gun won't work. Okay, so now you have the time to try and execute other techniques where you're trying to wrestle the gun out of their hand. Okay, so now naturally, if I'm going to be drilling this and doing this, 20, 50, 100 times, I don't necessarily need to do this on the ground in that specific type of situation. I will do it standing, but now it's in my mind, right? I've built in the muscle memory so that if I ever find myself in that type of situation, it will come, it's something that you would think about, right? So that's the thing to understand with drilling, okay? You're drilling something just so that you can build up the muscle memory, but you're not necessarily creating the entire scenario. Let me give it to you this way, right? A way that I think will be a lot easier for people to understand. We all practice drawing from a holster, right? Come out of holster, extend, get our sights on target, shoot, right? Very basic thing, okay? But we don't practice the scenarios. For example, what if the gun, you have a person standing 5-6 feet in front of you, and they already have the gun on you, right? Gun's already pointed on you. You going to your holster to do a draw is going to get you killed, okay? So if the gun is already on you, the standard technique that we practice of drawing and shooting is not going to work, okay? So, but we don't necessarily practice that way, right? So now there is always a counter to a counter, right? So that's the other thing to understand. Like, so, okay, fine, you got a person 6 feet in front of you, okay? Question is, are they there to rob you, or are they there to execute you, right? If it's a robbery, give them the damn money, right? The money that you will probably spend in lawyer fees is more than the money that's probably in your wallet. So absolutely give them the money, okay? Are they there to execute you, okay? Now, if they're there to execute you, now you got to do something, right? They're there to execute you, right? So now you got two options. Either stall for time, right? Or one of the possible counters is to do a sidestep. So one of the things I teach is sidestep, okay? Because now what you're doing is you're taking back initiative, okay? So by sidestepping, you expect me here by me sidestepping, right, like that, what I've done is I've taken back initiative because you expect me to be here, your gun is pointed here, I'm moving a couple of inches to the left. You might track that, right? You may not. You may. So now, instead of, if I stay here, right, all you got to do is keep your gun where it is, okay? If I move, now there's three possible places I can be. I can be in my original position, I can be here, or I can be further out. So the person pointing the gun at you, when you start moving, doesn't know how far you're gonna go, okay? So if you sidestep, right, if you do the sidestep, right, like that, they might think that, hey, you're gonna be over there, right? So they might, even if they start tracking you, they might go past you. So again, now we're looking at a situation where we're trying to take back initiative, okay? And I think that this is what a lot of these gun disarm techniques are. They're attempts to take back initiative, especially in a situation where you have the gun already pointed at you, all right? You are definitely at a huge disadvantage, right? If somebody has a gun pointed at you and they're already committed to killing you, and there's a 100% chance of you getting, 100% chance of you getting killed, of being killed, you know what? I'm going to take that 1% chance that if I do something, hey, there's a 1% chance I might survive it. Okay, so 99% survival is better than changing the possibility of me dying from 100% to 99%. Hey, you know what? I'll take that 1%, right? Because out of 100 times, you're gonna, you might survive it. So, so that's the context in which to put these gun disarms. And again, the important thing here to understand is the standard thing that we practice: draw from the holster and fire, right? Or even move to jackets in the way, or move to cover and fire. Okay, if the other person knows what you're gonna do, none of that's gonna work. All right, so that's the other important thing. A lot of times, because we might be, let's say we're practicing with airsoft, right, or paintball, right? We're going through move to cover, move to cover and fire. If the person that you're drilling with, who's got an airsoft gun, if they know which piece of cover you're gonna move to when, when I guess everybody says go, right? If they're expecting you to move in that direction, then they're gonna start leading you in that direction, right? Because they already know where you're going. So that's because a lot of times, you'll see people, they'll talk about a certain technique and say, well, this is why this technique doesn't work. Yes, and that is absolutely right. It will not work when the other person knows what you're gonna do. When you factor in the unknown, right, that the other person doesn't know what you're gonna, when the other person doesn't know what you're gonna do, there's a much higher chance of success. Okay, so now, like I said, all these techniques that I have seen I've seen D.U.S.T perform. I've seen them all. I've seen them from martial artists, okay, who practice just with dummy guns. A lot of them having never fired a gun, and that's a big disadvantage, right? If you're if you're in a situation where you're practicing the gun disarm techniques but don't have any actual gun training, it's going to be a big disadvantage, because when you do get the gun out of that person's hands, you're not going to know what to do with it, right? You're not going to know how to tap it, rack it, and get the gun able to, make the gun useful, okay? So just training the gun disarming techniques but not having a lot of gun training doesn't help you, right? You need a combination of the both. But like I said, all these techniques, I have learned them in some context from some person, whether it be police or military in advanced levels. I've seen, it's not like one person does all the techniques. I mean, I would consider, what D.U.S.T has done is he's probably compiled lots of different techniques that he has learned over the years from lots of different sources, which is kind of what I do with the gun training, right? I don't invent anything, right? If you go through my channel, I got something like 1,300 videos. I've never seen a day of combat in my life, but I have trained with a lot of different, military and police people. And from every person that I work with, I pick up something new, and basically I compile that, and that becomes part of my training. Okay, he's probably done the same, right? He's probably studied this stuff over many years, picked up lots of stuff from a lot of different people. So I would say that the guy's an expert. Okay, it's now in the videos, it might look choreographed, it might look fake, but it's a drill. It's an exercise similar to us drawing from the holster and shooting, okay? That's an exercise, okay? That's not what a real life, defensive situation would look like. And again, if somebody knows I'm going to draw from the holster and shoot, they already got their gun on me, I'm going to lose, okay? To tell you the honest truth, if I have, let's say, this guy from D.U.S.T in my area, I mean, yeah, I would definitely want to get together with him and, do a couple of drills with him, see what I could learn from him. Because, he might, I mean, I would take that information, get good with it, and then decide, once you have it, then you decide when and where you're going to use it. Okay, now, the other thing I would do is there's lots of other channels out there that are discussing his methods, right? That are explaining why it doesn't work, that are showing you the counter. And yeah, you know what? I would study that too. I want to know the technique. I want to know to the counter to the technique. And I want to know the counter to the counter, okay? And if you look at the historical fighting manuals, they actually go through all that, right? They show you a sword or dagger disarm technique. They show you the counter to that, and then they show you the counter to the counter, okay? And then sometimes they'll even go another level after that. So that's my opinion. Looking at his techniques, I'll tell you guys, I have seen them all before, being taught, practiced by, guys that have actually been in combat. Now, I mean, I think they're legitimate in certain situations, right? The situation is the big disclaimer, right? You got to have the right situation where it's going to work. It may not work where you're standing, but it may work if you're rolling around the ground. But again, no different than drawing from a holster and shooting, right? That's going to work in some situations. It's not going to work in other situations, right? Where the gun's already on you, or if you're already, if you're facing down 10 guys with guns on you, that's not going to work, right? So you got to put everything in a context, but it is good. In my opinion, it's good to have the skills, and then you decide when and where and how you're going to use those skills. So there are my thoughts on that. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe, hit the bell button so you get notification of new videos I put up. Talk to you all soon.